Center of an international money laundering investigation. Federal investigators claim the owner sent millions of dollars of merchandise through Chinese money couriers. I read through the 20-page court document today. The social status at Plaza Midwood clothing store was named in it, as investigators say someone attached to the business sold shoes and apparel to a reseller in China, then used a money laundering operation involving Chinese money couriers for payment.
Social Status and several other retail brands allegedly owned by this businessman sell exclusive limited edition high-end sneakers and apparel. The filing alleges the owner had contracts with several sneaker companies, including one based in Oregon, but that the contracts prohibited him from reselling the shoes outside the U.S. or to another retailer. But prosecutors say he did just that through a money transfer commonly referred to as a mirror exchange using Chinese business couriers. According to the filing, those money couriers told investigators they were directed to collect and assemble large amounts of U.S. currency from Chinese women believed to be involved in prostitution. Prosecutors say that money was then transferred for the retail goods, sometimes through Charlotte, and then ultimately introduced into the banking system through deposits. You can see here some of the pictures that were included in the court documents of some of the money that was seized in this operation. In all, prosecutors say the operation involved at least 255 transactions of at least $10,000 in cash each, totaling more than $32 million.
We confirmed that the Charlotte businessman named in this civil forfeiture case has not been criminally charged at this time. That is why we are not naming him. Prosecutors say money laundering operations involving China have become more popular since 2016, when China passed a law restricting how much money can be transferred out of China.
So that is a lot to unpack. Social Status is responsible for being a part of a money laundering scheme and also responsible for one of the biggest, if not biggest, backdoor scandals of sneaker history. With them reselling sneakers to China, having Chinese couriers pick up cash from sex workers, then having that money directed back to US banks. Now, with the original case, there's around 20 legal documents explaining the whole thing, and it can get a little complicated and confusing. So that's my job in today's video, to break it down and explain it to you and tell you what's happening. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So let's start out with who's all involved. It starts out with James Whitner, the store owner of Social Status and Mom Manier. If you're not too familiar with Social Status, I'm pretty sure you know Mom Manier because their Jordan 5 collab is coming out this week and it's on everybody's radar. However, if you don't get it from them, then you probably know why now. Social Status also dropped some good collabs too, like the Social Status Milkshake Dunk. So these are two high-level retailers that basically get all the exclusive sneakers and even collabs with the sneaker companies themselves. So this transitions us into the reselling and backdoor part of the story. Let's start out with who's all involved. It starts out with James Whitner, the store owner of Social Status and Mom Manier. If you're not too familiar with Social Status, I'm pretty sure you know Mom Manier because their Air Jordan 5 collab is coming out this week and it's on everybody's radar. Now, if you put in a raffle with them, don't be surprised if you don't get a pair. But anyways, these are two high-level retailers that get all the exclusive sneakers and often get collabs with the sneaker companies themselves, like Nike or Jordan. Then we have Antoine Freeman, where he recently got $1.2 million seized in cash from his apartment. Now, he's not really the main culprit, he's really just the middleman between James and the Chinese. It'll all make sense later down the story, but the main culprit is still James, and it starts with him reselling his shoes to China. So unless you've been living under a rock within the sneaker community or you're just super naive, everybody knows that backdooring happens all the time, anywhere and everywhere, and it's just a part of the game at this point, as long as it's done in some type of healthy manner. However, Social Status took this to the far extreme. According to Compliant, they were already suspected of reselling sneakers to the Chinese for multiple years and resulting in millions of dollars in profits. And while getting looked into this, they noticed that the money was being washed into other illegal activities such as prostitution. So I have one of the documents from the case pulled up right here. I'm going to put it on the screen. If you guys want to pause the video and read the whole thing, I'm just going to read the highlighted because that's the most important. So it says the Whitaker Group was the umbrella entity that owned the retail brands Social Status, APB, and Mom Manier, among others, in contracts with at least one of the sneaker companies based in Oregon. After this, just going to refer to sneaker company, but we all know who's in Oregon, so they are referring to Nike. Sneaker company expressly forbade Whitner and Whitner's businesses from selling, shipping, consigning, or otherwise transferring sneaker company sneaker and other apparel outside the United States, or to another retailer, or to a distributor or broker, or to any person under circumstances where Whitner knew or should have known based on the circumstances of the transaction that the product was intended for resale or would likely be resold. However, Whitner did not. At the bottom of the document basically entails that he's not allowed to resell with Nike, and I'm pretty sure this goes with the other brands as well because it deems as a conflict of interest. You can't do one thing without hurting the other. Basically saying that there would be no point in him selling his shoes to the regular customer when he can just double or triple his profits elsewhere. And that's exactly what he did. According to the complaint, he said that they were doing business with a man called YG, and he was a Chinese national, and they sold millions of dollars worth of sneakers to him where he resold across China and Asia, but it didn't stop there. So the document sums up their entire scheme like this. YG would buy the sneakers from James, and then a broker will receive the payment from YG, and then he would direct couriers to pick up money from people all around New York, mainly being prostitutes. Now the reason that they were prostitutes was because that one, they're only dealing with mainly cash, and then two, prostitution is illegal, so they know that dealing with someone also doing illegal activities would give them a better chance of not getting snitched on. So then once the money came up to around $50,000 to $100,000, they were delivered to Freeman, who would deliver it right back to James. Like I said, he's just basically the middleman. However, the sum of money got to a ridiculous amount, and they started hiring the Brink employees to basically travel the money so it wouldn't get flagged by IRS and they can dodge that boy Uncle Sam. So the whole courier situation, sex worker thing, and their whole little intricate system might be a little bit confusing on why they're even doing that in the first place, is because there's actually a law that limits the amount of money that you can export to China. So by them doing this, they're creating their own money transmitting system, which is just a fancy phrase for Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo. They're just using a way to send money to each other without having to pay taxes and avoiding the IRS. And that's one way to do it, and that's very illegal, so I don't recommend it. So the scheme was successful from all the way from November 2017 to April of 2022, where they recorded $32 million worth of transactions between YG and James. And then when everything was busted, Nike did not have a statement. However, James did, and by the statement, it kind of seemed like Nike was on his side with this. Okay, so I do have his official quote. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Feel free to pause it if you want to read the whole thing. I'm just gonna summarize it right here. And he says, our professional inventory management team runs a transparent process built on systems that are both legally compliant and consistent with industry standards. We have also complied with all tax obligations annually. So he's basically saying we're following all the rules, we're doing everything that Nike wants to do, we're following standard protocol, and then also we have the money for everything, we're paying our taxes, everything on the books looks right. But obviously with money laundering, you can tweak the book to make it seem one thing and it's really a whole nother thing. You're pocketing extra cash. So obviously he can say that because on paper it does look right, but everything behind the scenes is actually fraud. So the story ends with Freeman getting arrested, being caught with $1.2 million cash in his apartment. Then James admitted that the cash was his, so they issued out a warrant to go seize the product. However, they didn't issue out a warrant for his arrest, so as of now, he was not charged with anything. However, the two couriers working with YG, they were pressed with 2 criminal charges, but there was nothing said about YG himself, so I think he just got let free. So what do you think about the status of Social Status and Imam Munir? Are they deserving of these collabs? Because they still have 12 collabs with Nike and Jordan to go finish out the year. But with them doing all this business behind doors, are they even deserving or rewarding of a collab with Nike and Jordan? Where does the backdooring stop? What are the limits? What are the expectations? And what does Nike as a company need to do to stop these companies? Because this is not the only company that does this type of stuff. This is just the one that has just gone